Start it up.
So at some point in time, all of us builders will be faced with a decision. A very big decision on what to put in our instrument panel. Today, we're going to talk about one very good option for avionics. Hey everyone, I'm Brian Wallstrom with the Experimental Aircraft Channel, and I've gotten to the point in my build that I am really getting close to needing my instrument panel cut out and start the build process. So I figured I'd take this time to share with you what I chose and why I chose Dynon Avionics. Of course, you've seen, if you've been watching the channel for some time, Dynon's been a sponsor for quite some time, and of course this has been kind of a work in progress to get here, but I want to showcase a little bit about first the packaging. I don't want to do an unboxing. All of you are very capable of unboxing and seeing how that is, and I don't want to bore you with that, but I do want to show you, and I do want to share with you at least the packaging that is done, because to me that kind of starts off the introduction of how a company is detail oriented, and that is how it's packaged. And I feel that they've done a really good job of packaging their products. And so when you open the box, of course, it's the first thing you see is the box. So I just want to point that out real quick of how a great job they've done of packaging it, and it kind of showcases the avionics as soon as you open the box. And I think that's just kind of cool. Anyway, so you can see here, we got the heading and baro and altimeter controls here. Got the intercom knobs and switches there. And these, as you probably know, are the remote controls. So this is what's in your panel. It's very lightweight. It's not very deep. And it is just an interface to what is connected further down the road here, which makes for a very simple installation on the instrument panel. So they are plastic, but they're a good quality plastic. Again, lightweight. The connections are in the back. Just nothing is really plug and play these days, right? But if we can get and move towards as much of a plug and play operation or system as possible, that makes it easier for us, the builder, and for designing your panel. So it is very much nearly a plug and play, which is why I like this system. So that's again just one way of showcasing how these are boxed. I've got one out of the box, of course, to show you. I'm going with, hasn't been installed yet, 2 of the Dynon 10-inch screens. I know several people have done just one screen and like an Apple iPad or whatnot iPad to use as a second screen, which is still a great option, I think. But it doesn't give you the same kind of backup as having 2 of the screens. Now, I thought first getting into this and coming from a little bit of the automation world, that one was like a primary, and then that I was slaved to the primary. And that is not the case, Dynon tells me. You basically have 2 primaries, you just have one acting as a primary all the time instead of like a primary secondary. So both screens are capable of doing the same thing, you just set it up how you like it. And that's what I like about that as well. So obviously in front of the pilot, you're going to have most of your flight instruments shown. You can split the screen and showcase your engine controls. And the other side of the instrument panel, as an option, you can use that as primary as your navigation, which is what I intend to do. So again, just to kind of showcase lastly how these things are packaged. It's simple, but a nice display of showcasing their product. And it's safely packed. There's obviously good quality of cardboard, and they use some good foam to hold it in there nice and tight, and it kind of floats in the box, so to absorb, I guess, a little bit of the shock from our friendly UPS driver or FedEx driver that delivers to your house. So everything arrived at the house, not even dented. The boxes were actually in good shape. So kudos to, I think it was UPS that delivered this to me. All right, so before I get ahead of myself here, let me explain why I chose Dynon. Actually, I did choose Dynon and went to them to see about working together to promote each other, essentially, right? Because I know Dynon is a good product. The why is I know it's a good product. It is very popular in the experimental world. I've seen for years now many versions of the Dynon panels and their packages and so forth. I've seen in many aircraft before I even started doing what I'm doing now. So it's a name brand that I've gotten to be pretty familiar with over the years. And then getting into my build on the Zenith especially, and vans, all the big popular kits that are out there, you just see these in a lot of aircraft. So you start talking to people about what they like and their setup and so forth. And this has again been very popular with the experimental crowd, which obviously I'm in and promoting. So not to say that Dynon is also in many certified aircraft. If you go to their website at dynon.com, you can check out the list of aircraft they currently have certifications for. So that's the primary reason that started this conversation, at least, that I knew that was a good brand. And honestly, I just kind of like the look and feel of it. I know that kind of sounds maybe a little bit funny. Might be a Ford guy versus a Chevy guy. Me personally, for some reason on the interior of the Ford vehicles, I always thought that the fit and finish or whatnot was always a little bit nicer than a Chevy. Chevy just kind of seemed a little bit more, I don't know, rounded and plasticky or something like that. They're all made of plastic, but it just the touch and feel of it was different for me. And that's why I like Dynon, is the kind of the touch and feel. And speaking of ergonomics for a minute, one of the big things that is a selling point to me, and I know there's a couple different options that even Dynon has within their own offerings. To back up for a second, so we've got Dynon as the brand, and then they purchased this Advanced Flight Systems, and they kind of operate off the same platforms, or just a little bit again different touch feel to it, and you can check that out on the same website actually. So on the panel, for example, the ergonomics of it to me just makes sense. There is an option of having just a completely flat panel with buttons, and then this one, as you can see, there has like a little bit of a 45 degree, I think it is 30 to 45 degree kick out, which is kind of a perch. So obviously all of us want to fly in crystal clear, smooth air, but that's not always the case, especially here in Florida. You get afternoon pop-ups, a little bit of thermals, and you're bouncing around. So what I like about this is it's an easy perch for your finger as you're flying to hit the buttons. And then the other thing they've done here is this sticks off the panel, not much, it's about half of an inch. And then there's 4 mounting screws that hold it in there. What that gives you is, again, another little perch on the side, because this is a touch screen, of course. You've got soft keys, buttons, and knobs to adjust and navigate through the screens. But you can perch your finger off the side and still use the touch. And that is obviously the case all the way around. So if you're bouncing around a lot, you can perch your finger on that and kind of move around versus trying to do it that way.
We are partnering with great companies like Dynon Avionics at dynon.com, Airtech Coatings at airtechcoatings.com, AviNation Youth Magazine at avinationusa.com. Take a moment to go visit their websites at the links found below in the description of this video. And visit our website at experimentalaircraftchannel.com for events, our video library arranged in easy-to-find playlists on specific topics, affiliate products, aviation merchandise, and so much more.
All right, so the next thing I want to talk about and point out with Dynon Systems is that we're builders, right? We're building these kits and we enjoy building, and all of us have different levels, different degrees of how much we want to build our aircraft. And obviously there's so many different things to learn about building airplanes. And we're not all going to be perfect at every last thing, right? Let's just face it. Some are going to be better at metalworking or assembly, some better at paint, some better at interior work. Some might be really good at wiring. But for those of you that aren't, or if that just seems too much work or too complicated, or you're worried about letting the smoke out, as the saying goes, there is an option here with Dynon, and they've got pre-made wiring kits. So again, going back to the plug and play, nothing in this world is completely 100% plug and play, but this is pretty close. This is as close as I've seen it actually being nearly plug and play. So you tell them what you want, kind of build out the system, the different options, and they can literally, most of this stuff is pulled off the shelf, right? They've got certain lengths, like this is 15 feet of Skyview network cable as an example. And depending on where you're running, of course, you can cut some of the stuff to length, or you tell them where you're gonna mount things, and you can get an order to the specific length you need. Now these are already terminated. They've already connected the pins on this cable. So if there's a little bit extra on this one, of course, I could just loop it up in the back a little bit, and that's fine. But again, they give you the option of, this is literally like a kit to do your avionics with. That's a network cable, a couple of those. Another thing to point out here, like this one here is the intercom harness, which you think is probably the easiest thing you could possibly wire up in your entire aircraft is the intercom. But they've got this already set up with a, I don't know, 24-pin DIN connector at one end. And the other end on this one is not pinned out. It's just cut wire, so you have to terminate the ends there. But they do have them already labeled. So this is pilot phones, pilot mic, co-pilot mic, and so forth. So it makes it really easy to locate which wire is what on that, to be able to terminate at the other end. So in the areas that you do have to insert the pin into the connector, you'll find it's a very easy task. A long time ago, a couple decades ago, I actually used to work in an avionics shop, and I learned to do this stuff after crimping the pins on. It's a very simple process actually, where you put the wire with the pin on it into the connector, and it actually kind of clicks or snaps into place. So you'll have a drawing that will show a pinout of which wire will go into which part of the connector there, usually like 1 through 24 or whatnot. You push it in from the back side, it clicks, and it's as simple as that. Now Dynon does provide a few little simple tools to like release a pin if you accidentally put one in the wrong spot, the wrong hole. You simply will put this in there, and basically you're compressing a little thin piece of metal that is clicking and locking it into place. You're bending that back essentially so you can release that pin. So they've included those little tools for that. So here's another kit. Here is the connector kit, female D9, 9-pin DIN. So now this would be for the ends that have not terminated yet, of course, right? Where you've got the gold pins and then the connectors there. And there's a few other little tools that you need to buy from like Aircraft Spruce or Wix or whatnot that'll help you in this process. Not a whole lot of money, but it's a good investment for this build, future builds, or just to keep working on your aircraft. So there's a few tools that are specific to doing this type of work that will be good to invest in. All right, so another kit here. This is the display harness. As you can see, this is probably one of the most colorful kits that they've got there. A lot of different colors. We got obviously primary colors of red, yellow, green, and so forth, to again help you navigate your drawings into building this yourself. Guys, girls, everybody, this can seem at first like an impossible task, but once you get into it, there is a method to the madness, And if you can follow directions, if you can assemble any little thing from the store that you've had to assemble at your house for around the house, I'm pretty certain you can handle this. Quite literally color-coded, like Crayola colors. I think you can handle this. All right, just to take a step back for a second and talk a bit more about why I chose Dynon and just the glass panel altogether. To be honest, guys and gal, there's probably like one gal watching right now. Hi. I've been more of like a steam gauge guy all my life. I mean, that's what most of us trained in, and that's what we're comfortable with and so forth. And I really didn't necessarily like the idea of going all electronic or all glass. In fact, I had planned on using steam gauges in my current build. But along comes so many different friends and builders that are using this, I decided, of course, to dig in a little deeper to see what the fuss is about. The biggest thing that I'm concerned, and I'm sure you are concerned about, is the reliability of electronics. I mean, the engines that we've been flying around for years have had backups or multiple backups and so forth. We've got magnetos, and we've got two magnetos if one fails and so forth. And you come to electronics, you know, if you lose your electrical system, what are you going to do, right? So one of the things I can share with you that will put your mind at ease on that, and I have opted for, is Dynon has a battery backup option, right? So it's a lithium-ion battery, and you can get you can actually get one for each display, which I chose to do. And I think this will allow you to run about 45 minutes to an hour just on this battery alone. So that's enough time. That's basically right in line with what your fuel reserve should be, right? To get back home, of having the 30 to 45 minute fuel reserve. Well, you have that as a battery electrical backup in your aircraft. And then if you want even more of a backup, again, you can get two batteries, and they're not very much. They don't weigh very much at all. So it's definitely worth investing to have a battery backup and paying the weight penalty of a few ounces to have that. All right, jumping around just a little bit here. Going back to that remote mount of the hardware and the interface again. The interface is very lightweight, very thin to be able to easily mount and plug and play into your instrument panel. But then that goes obviously wiring back to somewhere else in your aircraft, and what that hardware is going to look like somewhere else in your airplane, which makes it easier to mount options, is something like this. You're going to have a box essentially that this is doing all the work, right? This is doing all the work. The rest of it is just an interface there. And you've got the connector there, and this was the antenna for the radio. And there's a couple different options for that, actually. You can mount this under your seat, behind your seat. Dynon just shared something that I think they've had for a few years in certified limited basis, but they're bringing it to a little bit more expanded, I think, to the experimental market as well. And that is like this half pipe looking U-shaped bracket, sheet metal that will actually go in right behind the panel. And I actually really like that idea and that option. Not that we want to jam up too much stuff in one space, but if it's right there, it's easy accessible. A lot of people have talked about on their instrument panel, and going to that for a second, by the way, what a lot of people choose to do is use this literally as a bulkhead, right? In fact, that's what I'll be doing. This was supplied by the kit manufacturer. This happens to be a Zenith cruiser instrument panel, and you can use this to build your avionics into, which is fine. It's a little bit thin. I want to say it's 025 metal. Yeah, 025. But what a lot of people are choosing to do is cut out the majority of the middle and only leave like about 1 inch to 1.5 inch flange, and then go to a thicker metal, like probably 060, so you can have a little bit more, a little less flex in your panel, which is what I'm planning to do. So this will be a bulkhead essentially. This will mount into the plane. I'll leave the flange around it, have some mounting holes, and then create a whole new instrument panel. And I said that to say, what I really like about the option that Dynon has for this panel that sits right behind the screens is that it's all right there. So essentially, obviously this will mount in here. There's 4 screws that hold this in place. So you'll just take the 4 screws out, pull that back, pull a couple connectors off, that comes out of the way. Now you've got this big gaping 10-inch hole to be able to get to everything in the back. And it's right there. You don't have to worry about, some people have put a hinge on the bottom of their instrument panel. So you remove a few screws and the whole panel just hinges forward. So it's sitting there right there in your lap and you can work on it and so forth. And that's a great option too. I think that's a very creative option. Here's one more option for you that you can take out the 10-inch screen and get to those wires back below there. Another great idea I've seen is that people would put a shelf back here, and instead of doing it on top, do it on the bottom. So if you need to access it, you don't have to reach your arm way in the back and get cut up on those old zip ties, which you guys should probably try the Griplock Ties if you haven't, by the way. It's a pretty awesome product. Yes, you don't have to reach way up there to disconnect things and reach things. It's all laying right there. And I like that idea as well. Mount it kind of inverted so you can access it very easily. Now I don't have a power supply here to show this booted up right now, but I'll show a video that I've taken from before that shows how vibrant the colors are of these screens, which is very, very bright. And the sun does not impede the brightness of it. I'm not sure exactly the technology used in that. I just know from experience in flying in these aircraft that it does not impede your view of the panel. So another option that I'm kind of leaving open on the table right now, I'm going ahead and speaking of an autopilot system. Dynon does have an autopilot system, and what I've chosen to do for the moment, we're all worried about weight when we're building these aircraft, and I keep on adding options and adding options and adding options, and like any aircraft over years, we gain weight. Well, mine has gained weight a lot over the past year or so in adding options, simple options, but it's well above what the factory demonstrator weighs in at, I'm positive. So that being said, I'm choosing to go ahead and pre-wire everything needed to operate an autopilot minus the servos. The servos do not weigh that much. I think, if I remember correctly, they're right around 3.9, 4 pounds or something like that per servo. But then you've got the rod ends and the push rods and the mounting hardware and the mounting plates and all that. You know, it could be another 12 to 14 pounds in weight. That doesn't sound huge, I get that. But I've added like a seat slider option that weighs like 9 pounds. I've added dual brake kits, which adds, I don't even know. I've added bigger tires, I don't even know. As you can see, very quickly you can gain weight. So that being said, I probably will put the servos in at some point in time, but for now, we'll see where she weighs in at. Let's see how much she weighs when it's all done. But I said that to say, I really like the concept of having an autopilot, not just, I want to fly the airplane. Let me make that clear right now. I want to fly the airplane. But I'm told that over cross country, long cross countries, of course, that takes a significant amount of load off of the pilot and so forth. But the biggest selling point to me of why I will probably put those servos in and have that in there, that is a simple little button on your instrument panel for an auto level. And to me, that is a huge safety benefit, where if you accidentally fly into IMC and you get yourself into trouble, you can press the button and it'll take over and at least level the wings, which is, I think, one of the biggest, scariest part of flying into IMC. And I love that idea. All right, so here is my very simple layout. I like to keep this instrument panel as simple as possible. This will be obviously the primary screen. I probably have things laid out pretty much the way that is right there. Might have the instrument, the primary engine instruments over here. Might swap that around from time to time, but this will be all navigation and a very simple stack of what you're going to be interfacing with. And I kind of try to think it through of what I'll use as much as possible. On top, have an old-fashioned, you got to tie some of the old-fashioned aircraft stuff into it by having a panel mounted compass. Other than that, it's all glass. But anyway, on the top of the stack here, your radio, I think you'll be using that the most. Second down to that, your barometric pressure, updating that frequently, and then lastly, of course, your volume and squelch control for your intercom system. So very simple layout. My plan is to have pretty much nothing else other than there's the level and heading buttons that will probably be here and here, and then your ELT switch somewhere. This will have dual throttle, so a throttle will be on the left and on the right, and then everything else, which is not shown here, there'll be a center console, and I will try to have all of my switches mounted in the center console, so it'll be easy maintenance to be able to remove that to get access to it than trying to get a screen removed to mess with a breaker or a switch. So that's a quick overview of why I chose to go with Dynon, and as I move forward here in the next few months, we direct an attention to the really fun part of building an aircraft, and that is the avionics. So I'll be giving you updates as I go along the way, everything from the instrument panel being cut out, how I choose to go about doing that, to wiring this entire system up. So stay tuned for a future episode. I'll be sharing all that soon.